Hoijaka. Hoijaka, Tanoyap, Tansaquetals, Yawit, Manaxwit, Anhatli Skokoyen Sutswit, Minwa Ochit, Nox Chow Chow Stwite, Minwa Ochit, Nox Incho Moat, a How Kok Minoch, Jikoquin Stomoch, Not the Quikoquin, Quis O, Tiswa Amchit, Minwa Ochayap, the Hatli Skokoyen Sutswit, Elch Ancha, Chit Kwamantomi, Osium. Let's hear it for Namibia first and foremost. What an amazing place. I tell you, I think I landed one of the best gigs. This is amazing to be here with ATTA. Thank you, Shannon, and your team for the invitation to share a little bit of the richness of the history of First Nations people in Canada and the United States, and the opportunities that lie ahead of us. Our history is your history. It is important to know that our lands are laden with mythology, with place names and history that span innumerable generations. I come from a beautiful part of the territory, as you see here, this wonderful slideshow, that our ancestors have utilized for many thousands of years. Our mythology recounts many catalysts of change, of transformation. And we are amidst transition, for we cannot go back to the way it was during my great-grandparents' day. It is imperative for us to draw forward that traditional knowledge and apply it in a modern context. We are in an ever-changing environment, and this is exciting because we have the tools, the best tools available to us, as many of you are innovators. Many of you are creating a new chapter in our collective history. I look to what is being done here in Namibia with the people of this land, and I am inspired. I love the tagline of Imagine, Inspire, and Invest. I've had the great privilege of traveling to many countries around the world to interface with heads of state and explore the many challenges that are social, economic, and political that don't only face First Nations people, but are now a global issue. Our lands have been heavily impacted by colonization. Our languages and our cultures have suffered. But this is not a story isolated to the Squamish people. It is a story of humanity, of perseverance, of resilience, and triumph. I believe that we can move forward by exploring opportunities and creating the framework that will help create an experience that is meaningful to fulfill people's desire to leave the comfort of their homes and of their families, and to go and set forth and once again persevere the warm climates here, the deserts, to look to the beautiful wildlife here and their resilience. It is amazing to see how the animals here are flourishing. I am a hunter. I use a 7mm Magnum. I do not use my bow and arrow as my ancestors did, but my guns are simply a modern tool. We have a beautiful artist, a wonderful, renowned Haida artist where I come from, known as Robert Davidson. Years ago, when I sat with Robert and we shared our songs and we shared our stories, Robert was carving one of the beautiful West Coast totem poles. And he was using a chainsaw. And some tourists came by in downtown Vancouver. And you could see them muttering and whispering to themselves. Finally, one of the tourists came forward and said, "Excuse me, that is not a traditional Haida pole. Your ancestors never used chainsaws." And Robert winked at us, and he simply said, "They would have if they had them." So for us, it is about adaptation versus assimilation. We are not assimilating into some global village to eliminate our differences. We are here to celebrate our differences. That adaptation in our language is called Injin Continuity. No. I want to commend my good friend Anna for her courage to stand here and set us on a trajectory that offers an alternative, to take the ambiguity away from the us and them, that it is not First Nations or Indigenous people that are standing like this with our hands out. We no longer want to stand like this with our fists up. It is about creating partnerships, of putting our hands out and saying, what can we do together? When Anna first came to my territory in Vancouver, she spent many years living in Vancouver in Coast Salish territory. In her 40 years of expertise, there are times we become overwhelmed, and I know Anna needed to come and talk to some of our elders. And she sought advice by many of our elders and our mentors that are no longer with us. And when she first approached our elders, she said, you know, some days I feel like a teepee. Other days, I feel like a wigwam. And our elder said, you are 2 tents. No. But I want to again commend all of the efforts, the Namibian government for your hospitality, of ATTA for your foresight, your commitment, your innovation, your leadership. I want to thank WWF. When I was growing up, that was the World Wrestling Federation or something, but the work that WWF and others are doing on conservation, we are also mirroring that in our area. There seems to be a paradigm shift, a global consciousness, where we have had to work effortlessly to try and create and strengthen relations with the Canadian governments, to look at land use planning, to look at strategic level planning, to create a vision, goals and objectives. And we have managed to protect approximately 50,000 hectares of what we call Quaquayach. The government asked us to translate this, and many of these images are directly from those places that are pristine. These places resonate, they hum with beauty and power. And you do not have to be Squamish to walk in there and feel that love. What is next is immersing our young people for succession. How do we inspire our young people to come forward and bestow the stewardship on them? For we are simply relay runners. We simply accept the baton from our predecessors. We do the best we can while we hold those sacred responsibilities, ultimately to bestow that onto our future generations. So tradition isn't something 200 years ago. Tradition is today. It is a continuity of tradition. For what you do today will someday be traditional. So you are setting that example, that legacy for our future descendants. You are modeling success today. So I commend you again for the wonderful work that you are doing. I want to share a brief story because I once was told that governments learn by statistics, institutes learn by studies, and people learn by stories. One of our stories that is taught to us in our Nukhneo, in our upbringing by our elders, is our relationship to the natural world. And when I was here in Namibia, I heard some of these stories and it made me hungry for more. So I thought about this story, a time, what we call Kwekwaistwai, in the long ago, during the mythological times, when all the animal people could talk to each other. When humans were part of that family, we could all converse with each other. The animals would take their skins off and we were in our spirit form. It is said that all the animal people lived together in one big village, and they were all working, industrious, very busy, mending their nets, making their tools, carving their canoes, doing the things that they needed to do, all the specialties that each of them have. And Raven is our trickster. He wanted to stir things up, so he started calling the people together. Stop. He said, come quick. This is really important, gather around. The people looked and they said, it's only Raven. They said, we're too busy. He said, no, come really quick. We must take care of some business. So the people came by and they said, what is it, Raven? He said, we must have a competition. We must see who the strongest amongst us is. The people said, this is irrelevant. As long as we're all working together cooperatively, chinchinstwai, ayatawai, the values of compassion and cooperation, it's irrelevant who's the strongest. He said, no, each of you have been gifted with a talent, a gift. So the grizzly bear, Sthathalam, stepped forward. He said, let's make this really quick. And he roared. And with his breath, he almost blew Raven over. His feathers were flailing in the breath of this grizzly bear. And Grizzly turned around and shook the tree. And everyone was like, whoa, I don't want to mess with that bear. That bear has to be the toughest. So everyone started walking away, going back to their jobs. And Skulk said, no, come back. The next person, show me what gifts you have. So the Huaitian, the deer, stepped forward. And he was as fast as the wind. He could run, jump over the logs and the bushes. And he ran back and he jumped right over the people. And when he stopped, he skidded and he spread dirt all over Raven. And Raven's like, oh man, watch it. And all the animal people started relaxing and loosening up. So next came the little birdie, Huat. And little birdie starts singing this beautiful song. And everyone said, what is Birdie going to do? And Birdie flew up into the sky, and he tucked his wings in, and he dove down towards the people. And he went right for Bear, and he flew around Bear really fast, and Bear was swatting, trying to hit this bear, or this little bird. And everyone's like, check out Birdie, he's making Bear dance, right? So everyone started showcasing their talents, but there was one human being amongst them. And this human stood there, feeling anxiety, feeling inadequate, wondering, what shall I do? I'm not big and strong like Bear. I can't fly. I can't sing nearly as good as the bird people. I'm not very fast. All of these negative thoughts were coming through this person's mind. And when no one was looking, that person picked up his bow and arrow, and he drew it back, and he released his arrow, and it hit Grizzly Bear. The bear fell down dead, and the people were in shock. When they turned around, they seen that human being standing there shaking with rage and resentment. They said, that is not strength. That is not power. So they walked away from that human being, and they say from that day forward, us as human beings have stepped away from our connection to the natural world, and we have been searching for that ever since. We have been searching for our purpose and our connection to our connection of creation. And that is a part of our desire as human beings to explore, to feel, to challenge, to take risk, but also to return home and feel the comforts and enjoy the gratitude of love and compassion for each other. So I want to share a song with you because I know we are very short in time. There is much more stories we could tell together, but I'm very honored to be here. I brought my drum. And part of our protocol when we come to someone's territory is to always recognize the local people of these lands, to always ask permission. And throughout our travels, we have been welcomed and we have shared songs with all of the people, Shea Shoshona, up in the Caprivi, up in Damaraland. We are so grateful to our relatives here in Africa because we are connected. We are no different. One of the things I want to do is share one of the top 10 of our potlatch hits for you today. You've all been sitting for a long time. There's been some great speakers, and I commend our wonderful facilitators and speakers. But it is now time to take one of these healthy risks. I'm going to invite this quarter of our room here, all of you fine people. When I point at you, I am going to call Anshohopate. Most people in the world recognize First Nations as the whale, the bear, the eagle, these totems. But often the poor bunny rabbits are forgotten. So you can all dance like bunny rabbits, right? You're going to put your hands up and do some of this, okay? Some of you modern bunnies might go, all right? So when I point and I say Anshohopate, please stand up and have some fun. Let's stretch. We've been sitting on airplanes and in vehicles for many hours. This quarter of the room, all of you fine people, when I point back here, I'm going to say Skalau. Can you all say Skalau? Terrible. Say it like you mean it. Skalau. Awesome. Now to dance like a skalau, you're going to be a beaver. You're going to chew on your stick like this, okay? Very traditional dance. So let's get up and shake a little, okay? This quarter of the room in the back here, I'm going to point at you, and I'm going to call S'Chayetlin. I won't ask you to say that, just trust me. S'Chayetlin is the salmon people. So you all know how to dance like a salmon? Just be spontaneous when you do it, okay? So be the salmon. Finally, our leaders and our friends and relatives here, I'm going to ask you to take a risk. When I point at you, I'm going to say, Wakas, the frog people. So to dance like a frog, you're going to hop up and down and stick your tongue out. Just be careful of your neighbors. So let's have some fun. We're here to celebrate our diversity of all of these beautiful animal beings that are in our hearts. So this is our Chief Jimmy welcome song. It is a song we would sing as canoes arrive ashore to celebrate. So, Paiske lolam te nux kwatayasiam solam. We ho ho yo ho yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo ho yo ho hey yo yo hey yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey anticipate the bunny rabbits yo ho ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey yo ho yo hey yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey Skala the beaver people yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey yo ho yo hey yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey T'Chayethan the salmon people yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey yo ho yo hey yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey Wachas the froggies yo ho yo ho hey yo hey yo hey yo ho yo hey yo ho yo hey yo hey yo hey now everybody get up and dance yo ho yo hey 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 woo Oichka. Oichka. Thank you, Oichka. You are now adopted. We have our membership forms for the Squamish Nation. No. Thank you very much. You are all wonderful dancers and participants. You're amazing. At this time, I'd like to invite my Winta family, who I have traveled with, many of my friends that have been instrumental in building relations and creating partnerships. I'd like them to join me on stage as we have a special presentation to conclude this part of our agenda. Part of the tradition of our Coast Salish and many of the First Nations people in Canada and the United States is generosity. It is important for us to reciprocate the gift that has been bestowed on us with the invitation to be here today, to join you in this celebration. We have come here with a special talking stick that was carved for this occasion. I would like to bestow this stick to ATTA and ask Chief Shannon if you would come forward. Part of the responsibility of the talking stick is to share the message, to continue traveling the world and sharing the goodwill and translating that goodwill into action so that we can find mutual benefits and reciprocation in our values that we bring. So please accept this talking stick on behalf of our Winta family and travel safely, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Wojtka.
Incredible. Incredible. Thank you so much.